Almost there. Almost there. Almost there. Thankfully, the neighbor has shut off his leaf blower, so I can think now. I know what everybody's thinking. This press doesn't sound right, does it? I would think it was supposed to be a lot smoother than this, but oh well. I don't know why it's popping like that. I think we're almost there. I think I need to pull it off and see how far we need to go. The instructions for this Jeep CJ one-piece axle kit just said to press the bearings on. No big deal, right? Just press them on. I suppose a machine shop could have done this a lot better than I could, but no time like the present to learn. Let's see how much further we need to go here. I'm sure there are others out there who know of a much better way to do this than other than what I am. Other than the tactic or the method I'm using. So, if you do know of a better way, keep it to yourself. We're going to pause the camera and think for about an hour. Okay, we're back now. Turns out I've got enough clearance here like this, right, to continue pressing without getting the whole thing out of square. Let's continue on. Or rather, let's press on, shall we? Don't quit your day job. Trying to make sure that my backing plates are absolutely secure against the axle shaft so that I can grab as much of the inner race as I can so I don't tear up the bearing. Being paranoid because I already destroyed one bearing. That wasn't fun. Makes you feel foolish. Too late, right? Just to make sure that didn't move my backing plates. I'm going to make sure they're reseated No, they didn't move. I guess with that much force on them, they're hard to move. I think we're almost there, people. I need to look at it one more time before I go any further. Okay, so we're calling that done. There is a ridge underneath there that you cannot see, obviously, but it looks similar to this one here, which is the first ridge. This is the area on which you press the bearing. Okay, and there's the entire axle shaft. Okay, so you start at this ridge and you press the bearing until it bumps up against a ridge that's larger than this one. And it's a little hard to tell once you get there, but I use this little tool right here to sort of feel my way around, and it feels like I can't feel a deviation like I can right here. So I think we're done. Okay, so we have an axle retainer ring here that needs to be pressed on as well, but the process is the same, obviously. We'll press this ring past this first indentation, and we'll butt it up against the bearing firmly and keep the sole purpose is to keep the bearing in place, and so we're going to do that next. Okay, we've got the axle assembly back on the press. We're going to press the axle bearing retainer rings on now. So we'll give you a shot at what that looks like. So there's the retainer ring on the backing plates, and there's the bearing up there. So we're going to press that into place. Make sure our backing plates are centered. Make sure our press doesn't fall apart. It's one of these high dollar jobs from China. When you only do something once in a blue moon, cheap Chinese press will do okay. Hopefully it won't explode in my face. Sorry, China, but you make some pretty cheap shit. But hey, the price is right, and I'm not a professional, so what the hell. I wonder if this will go more smoothly than the bearing did. The bearing made a lot of noises, but this retainer ring seems to be going on smoothly as we drop our tools. I'll tell you what, let's put the extension in to give ourselves a little more leverage. The retainer ring is going on much more smoothly. It's popping a little bit, but I assume that's because of the axle shaft isn't dead smooth. There's some machining marks on it from the lathe when it was manufactured. I'm assuming a higher quality product from Moser axles or what's that other one? Yukon. They would probably have a polished surface, but I got this from Crown, and not quite as high quality a product. We're almost there. So as you let's see where we at. As you can see, the spacer is almost there. I'm going to give it a pull, and then I'm going to give it a look, because I don't want to. How about I look and pull at the same time? That's better. We're almost there. I've got about 1/8 of an inch to go. Well, I suppose that was it. That was the 1/8 of an inch. We'll give it one more little tug. There we go. We are seated against the bearing now. Now we're seated against the bearing. Either we're seated against the bearing or we destroyed it. One or the other. We're going to find out. And if I destroyed it, I'll just go buy another one. Okay, well, it's fully seated against the bearing and it turns, so looks like we're done. We're ready for installation into the Jeep. And Kalamazam, the axle shaft is installed in the Jeep. Actually, you know what? It was really simple. All you had to do once we had it all together was slide it into the obviously into the axle tube, and bolt it down with these 4 flange bolts here, and boom, you're done. And it's in neutral, so we can turn it. There's no noise. Up inside the axle tube is a simple oil seal and a bearing spacer. I'll show you what that looks like. It comes with the kit. There's the other bearing, which we still have to do. And the bearing spacer is right here. So you put the oil seal in the axle tube, and you put the bearing spacer up against that. No big deal. Press the bearing onto the axle tube, and then this is the bearing retainer ring. We pressed that on earlier. You saw that. Anyway, we're going to do the other side now. This is fun. Okay, what we're doing here is we have to tolerance this this bearing spacer. It's part of this Crown one-piece axle conversion kit. So you can see the grease seal installed, and this bearing spacer goes in and it seats against the grease seal. All right, and then you take your bearing and you test fit it up inside there against your spacer. And the bearing cannot stick out past the edge of this casing more than 60 thousandths of an inch. And I use a pair of micrometers for that, obviously. But I'm using the bench grinder to, the stuff on the side is just to deburr the corner. So that's not really that important. So what is important is that you need this surface here to be flat and even. Now, I'm not a machinist, but I've sort of developed a way by hand to do this here in my shop. And some people may cringe at the idea of what I'm about to do, but they'll get over it. So let's go watch. Now you don't have to worry about the piece of metal getting too hot, obviously, because you know you're going to feel the heat in your hands. So I'm looking to get this thing, I need to take off about 30 thousandths, so that's the process I'm using. Okay, we're going to do the passenger side bearing now. We're going to press the bearing onto the new axle that I got from Crown Automotive from Quadratech for the old CJ. This is a little tricky. I went to school on the first one and used some tie wraps to hold everything in position and keep from keep everything from sliding around. Boy, that worked a lot better than last time. You live and you learn. No, I didn't cut myself. That's axle grease or bearing grease, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we're getting ready to press this bearing onto the axle shaft. So here's what we've got. Here's my backing plates. You need to make sure you get enough metal on the inner race, otherwise you'll tear up the bearing. Okay, up there we go. So we want to make sure that everything is just right. Make sure our jack is ready to jack. Got to tighten it up here. All right. Note to self, a pneumatic press might be nice one day. Okay, so we're going to get these backing plates, make sure that they are butted securely against the axle shaft so that we grab all the metal we can on these bearings. I think we're ready to go. One more check. Oh man, tie wrapping up this plate was a stroke of genius. I didn't do it last time, and It was really annoying. This one's going on a lot easier. I think the finish on this axle shaft must be a little better than the other one. All right. So I'm going to take some pressure off that, and then I'm going to recheck my backing plates to make sure they're still positioned correctly, nothing jumped around. Because we don't want to tear up the bearing. Guess how I know? Okay, we are getting close here, and let me take a look up in there. Yeah, we've got about an inch to go. That is just bizarre. I would have thought it would have gone on smoothly instead of applying tremendous amount of pressure and then building up a resistance and then popping like that, but oh well. I'll show you where we're at here. Alright, so you can see that this ridge right here, that's our destination. That's where we're going. So we've got 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch to go there. If I can get the camera reset. Okay, there we go. Check our backing plates again. They seem to be fine. All right. Let's see. Wow, that is just brutal. I think one more pop ought to get it. Let's put a little pressure on it. And then take the pressure off. Let's take it out and see where we are. So I'm going to pause the video now. Okay, I checked the, I pulled this thing out of here and then checked, and it looks like we got about another 1/8 inch to go. Cheers. So we're going to crank this thing down and one more pop out of it, as it seems to like to do. Pow, pow, pow. All right, let's give it a go here. Where's my, there it is. That's it. That's fully seated. Hopefully. Now we're going to pull it out, check it again. So let's let our pressure off. Okay, so now we have to press on the this little retainer ring. You can see the retainer ring there. And that's got to be pressed onto the to the inside of this bearing. So this ought to be a little, hopefully it won't be too tricky to get this into place. There we go. Slide. This is a little tricky. You've got to have, I don't want to brag or anything, but you've got to have strong hands. I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but you can't have wimpy hands and deal with this. If you got wimpy hands, go to the gym or wear some gloves or something. Or invite a friend over and give him some beer and let him help you. That works too. Okay, are we ready? All right, backing plate is on correctly. Bearing is fully seated. Backing plates seem to be in place. Let's finish this up, shall we? Get it centered there. What I'm doing is I'm putting my fingers between the back, these thick back plates to make sure everything is square and that they're the right distance apart, and so that they're perfectly butted up against the side of the axle shaft, because you want to grab as much of the metal of whatever you're trying to press as possible. So anyway, all right, enough of that. Let's go. There we go. Come on down. Let's finish up. Ready to quit for the night. All right, how far we got to go? We got to go about a little over an inch. And about 3/4 of an inch to go. We're getting there. About 1/4 of an inch to go. I'll give you a shot of that. See, our retainer ring is almost there. Gotta be careful. I don't want to ram this thing up against the bearing too hard. I think that is going to do it. Next step up will be to install the axle shaft into the Jeep.